Stop that. Charlie, stop it. Stop. What? You have any idea what you just did?
Oh, come on, we just made the deal of our lifetimes. We should celebrate.
You just bet against the American economy.
Fuck yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Which means, if we're right, people lose homes, people lose jobs, people lose retirement savings, people lose pensions. You know what I hate about fucking banking? It reduces people to numbers. Here's a number. Every 1% unemployment goes up, 40,000 people die. Did you know that?
No.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
We were just excited. Just don't fucking dance.
Surprise! We're back to bring you the world's most bullish podcast, the show that's unsponsorable, where the agenda writes itself and we're likely to be cancelled at any time quicker than you can share, like, subscribe, and comment. This is Pod 97, and as ever, I'm joined with my fellow co-hosts, Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Sir Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and finally, if the West's asking, tell them she's making an appearance in order to boost our fictitious ESG score, Mrs. No-Show, aka Mrs. No-Show. Still not here, of course, but in reality, she's never here. So please don't audit us on whatever's going on. So, guys, how's it going?
Yeah, good. We're almost up to the big century. I was wondering whether Mrs. No-Show will turn up in 3 episodes' time.
Yeah,
I mean, let's not push her, but let's see if she turns up. Then that'll be what, four out of 100.
Yeah,
She's got no clue 100's coming up. She's got no clue what number we're on.
Nah,
Well,
not interested.
I reckon one of the listeners might give her a poke.
I think that's illegal.
Right. I was just looking at the diary actually because I'm supposed to be away, but that's on Pod 101. So we'll see. I might be here.
Oh, actually, yeah, I think
Childcare issues.
Yeah, I think I'm away on Pod 100 as well.
Oh, Pod 100, you're away. Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to delay that.
Depends what's happened. I'm sure you guys can do it, but I might be to dial it. I'll be with a young MBA.
Okay.
I might take the laptop and the microphone, and we can do it. We can do it. For
Yeah,
the
so it
holiday.
depends how good your internet is wherever you're going.
Yeah, I'll have to test that. If it's all right, I can jump on for a few hours.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Sounds like we might have resolved the future because it's a very important pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Bitcoin mining, we need to continue no matter what. You know, you can rely on Bitcoin mining for every 10 minutes. Listeners and subscribers and viewers need to rely on us for each and every week to bring you the most, cutting edge stories in the world of Bitcoin. You don't need to worry about anything. And that's how I feel that we are, to the everyday person, we're bringing them the stories that matter.
We spend hundreds of hours a week on Twitter to find the top 10 stories.
Yeah.
I troll Twitter all day, every day, so you don't have to.
I was going to say, you're just out there for the lols to argue with random people.
Yeah, I've kind of been out of the streets a little bit of all that recently, but I do.
I haven't seen you say much on LinkedIn.
No.
Mm.
Kind of got a lot.
That's the key reason.
I was trying
to unsponsorable.
Yeah, I was trying to tag you into a conversation this morning, but you didn't take the bait.
Oh yeah, which one was this?
This was one about how Skipton Build Society were amazing in giving 0% deposits, and everyone's like, "Great initiative, John." Blah blah blah, and I was just like, "What do you mean? This isn't about him doing any good. It's
Yeah.
not him making a fuckload of profit because he knows when you offer 0% mortgages, you're going to go bump, up go the house fees, and the interest rates are shooting up. It's going to be money city.
Yeah. I think you did a screenshot of that post. I think if you'd have linked it, I'd have definitely clicked the link and given him some shit.
I'll have to find it then and send the link.
I remember seeing it. I was out literally today. I was making a load of wood. I got a load of old fence posts, and I'm trying to nail them all together to make an axe throwing board.
What to do with your time?
Yeah, because I went axe. I got a voucher to go axe throwing for my birthday. Went the other day. Great fun. Just launch some axes at a load of wood. Just see if you can make it stick in. You're like, this is fucking proper caveman shit. I like this. So I'm like, I could put this together. I was looking at the wood. I'm like, asked him about the axes. I'm like, yeah, you can pick up an axe for like 50 quid. I'm like, okay. I got a load of wood out the back by the barn. So I started nailing it together. Going to order some axes and start throwing it at the wood. Why not? So yeah, so I was doing that, and you're trying to bait me into fucking LinkedIn arguments, and I'm reading it. I'm like, yeah. I'm gonna carry on nailing this wood for now. I haven't got time to argue with the CEO of fucking whatever bank it is who's giving out 0% mortgages with no deposit.
Because he's such a good person.
Yeah, he's trying to help the average person get off the rental like merry-go-round, isn't he? He's not doing it for profit. He's doing it because he's a fucking good guy. Yeah.
I read it, and every line just, again, as a Bitcoiner, it just turns you into a cynic, right? But every line just reeked, he's lying, he's lying, he's lying.
Yeah. Well, he's the CEO of a bank, so you can go on a verge. Because they're just doing it, aren't they, right? It's one of those where they would never be doing this in this type of market, right? Where the cost of living is going up, wages are going down, redundancies are going up. Of course, like why would you not take a deposit from people and just give the house completely on a mortgage, purely 100% mortgage, where house prices are likely to go down significantly. So when these houses get reclaimed, they're going to be worth less than what the loan is. So the bank's going to be out of pocket. So what are they going to do about that? They know what they're going to do about that. They're going to go to government and get a bailout. So they know that this is a bad business decision if they had to be accountable for the losses that are inevitable. But the fact is they're not going to be accountable. However many billions or trillions they lose, they're going to go to the government and go, you can't let the entire economy crash. We're too big to fail. And they're going to get bailed out.
But it's going to be amazing in 3 to 6 months' time. We're going to see ridiculous house prices. We thought we'd already seen it, but this isn't the top of the market. We're discovering what the top of the market's going to be. And I'm going for a cheeky prediction of 25% increase.
What, in 3 months?
3 to 6 months, because it's going to go fucking haywire.
The thing is, as well, they won't be the only bank that will offer it as well. There'll be competitors in the market. So someone might even go back to the old school of 105% mortgage. So not only will we cover the mortgage and you don't have to put any deposit down, but it's a little extra for you to get that new sofa, landscape the garden, do whatever you want with it. You can go on holiday if you want, but you're still owing us. Yeah, bigger TV.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was another thing that I never even knew it was a thing when I was reading that article. It said they were giving up to 125% mortgages.
Back in 2008?
Yeah. You go, what the actual fuck? Like, obviously, in 2008, they were giving 700% mortgages because they were giving, a strip of 7 houses mortgage for like deposit free.
Was that in the UK or was that more US?
That's more US, yeah. That's why they collapsed. But they weren't doing a lot of checks, so that they were doing very rudimental checks on people, and then you start to go to a different bank and they give you a mortgage and wouldn't even ask if you had a mortgage somewhere else. But it was just completely ridiculous. But even in the UK, they were giving, like, from one bank, you would get 125%. And you just think about how much is like 25% of a house on top, just as because you're going to have that cash left over. You're just going to spend it on the house, on the new car, on a nice holiday. Yeah, it's so reckless. It's unbelievably reckless.
let me add to that. So people from a property perspective, and this is mad because I look back and think, wow, that was truly the golden era for them. They were taking out these 125% mortgages. They were finding a house that was below market value. So it should have been at 100 grand, let's say, but the owner needed to get out and was happy for a quick sale, 80 grand. So already they were in profit by 20. They would take that out, the 125, and then they were able to remortgage the property the next day. So nowadays you need to wait at least 6 months unless you're on a special product. So without even doing anything, they were in even more profit, and they would then take that, use it as the asset, and then take the extra money and potentially put it down on a new house as well. So that's how they were just bankrolling themselves with the bank's money. It's crazy to
massively
think, but it
bankrupt.
actually happened.
So looking at in figures, so 25%, what's that? So 2008, the average house price was 168,973. So that's 42 grand on that one. Now it's 288,000 as an average house price. So giving you 72,000. So yeah, it's just even bigger amounts now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And unless you're doing that whole flicking the property thing, and that's the thing, like there's a small percentage of people that are doing that, but the majority of people that get out the extra money is the average person you're talking about that just gets 70 grand in their bank. They ignore the fact they've just taken out £250,000 loan that they're going to have to be paying back over 30 years or something. They forget about the fact they've just inherited that and that massive cumbersome of debt that obviously they're taking out £250,000. Look at the total repayable. It's probably closer to £1 million. So really you're taking out £1 million loan once you factor in interest, which again, people don't realize because no one ever calculates total repayable. They go, oh, interest rates are going to be different. It's variable, super hard. Don't worry. Yeah, they tell you that because if you looked at that bit of paper and it said £1 million on it, total repayable, you fucking wouldn't sign it probably.
Mm.
But yeah, the average person is going to get that 72 grand if they end up doing it, going that silly. And what they're just going to go nuts with it, aren't they? They ain't going to, because it's reckless to take any more than you need anyway. But if you did, obviously it's a good percentage probably. That's why people do it. But then it's a good percentage on money that you don't need. So it's still a bad percentage. And it's like buying that designer handbag. Oh, it used to be 5 grand. It's only 2 grand. Guess what? You're talking at 2 grand on a handbag. Don't forget, you didn't save 3 grand. You spent 2. So when you take out 72 grand on 3 or 4%, like, yeah, it's a good percentage. It's not 6 or 7, which is what it would be, but it's still 3 or 4. So on that 75 grand, you're going to end up paying back 150. So be careful what you spend that on. And oh, look, you got a Porsche in the driveway, brand new TV. You're going off to the Maldives with the missus. 2 years later, the 72 grand's gone. But guess what? The debt ain't and the mortgage ain't.
So average house price to 288 grand on a 5% fixed rate, 25 years. You're repaying £505,000, so literally double the amount.
Yeah, what percentage was that on?
5%.
5, yeah. Show up to 7. What does it come out then?
This is going to be 610.
Yeah. And that's over 25 years as well. Like a lot of people are taking these out at 25 and paying back at 65. But to put it over 40 years.
Oh, 7%, 40 years, 859.
Yeah.
Oh, triple.
Yeah.
So that's a young person coming out, 25, feeling like, buying the average house and doing well. Yeah, that's fine. I'll pay it off when I retire. Yeah, you're paying best part of £1 million, really, and that's assuming 7, right? And I would fully predict that there's going to be a good decade of potentially 10% rates there, if not higher.
And of course, the repayments will be lower because it's over a longer period of time, which people naturally normally do. But as you said, the bigger figure is crazy. And it's nearly 3 times that of the price of the property, in the hope, of course, that property prices increase over time.
And ironically, they won't increase probably to the value that you end up paying the mortgage back at. And that's the thing. Most people have no clue when they take out that mortgage what the total repayable is. It always amazes me that if you ask the average person what's your total repayable on your mortgage, they'll look at you like you're fucking nuts. It's like, oh, the house was worth this when I bought it. You're like, yeah. It's like, oh, it's fine. It's worth more now. Yeah, of course it is, because all houses go up in value because of inflation. But what's your total payable on the loan? Is it more or less than what you think your house is worth now? I can almost guarantee you're paying more than the house is worth because the interest is going up faster than the house value.
Well, of course, the bank is always set up to win, right?
Yeah, of course they are.
Will always win.
Otherwise, they just buy the fucking house themselves.
But they're starting to do that, though.
Yeah. But anyway, should we get on to...
Yeah, let's talk about Bitcoin and not houses.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first story was the Balaji bet, Bitcoin hitting 1 million by June. So he's saying that it's already paid out. And this was interesting. So you linked it to Twitter. And as always, with anybody watching or listening, all of the stories are in the show notes, so you can click on the links and follow. So he's saying he just burned 1 million to tell you that they're printing trillions.
Yeah. So basically, Balaji is... I have no clue what he's fucking doing here, right? So
I don't either, and I was hoping you'd be able to shed some light.
Because I think his bet when he made it, when I watched probably about an hour of an interview, and he did fucking tens of hours of interviews about this bet. I think he was serious. I think he genuinely saw a banking collapse happening right there and then people just withdrawing their money and throwing it into Bitcoin. So I think he genuinely saw $1 million Bitcoin by June. But now it seems relatively evident that ain't happening, right? Bitcoin's pretty stable.
Or do you think he just wanted a bump by, say, like 20% or something like that, and it would put him well above 1 million in his holdings in Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, who knows, right? Maybe he traded it because people were speculating that he was probably got about 100 million worth of Bitcoin, and just coming out of this bet pumped the price by something like 4 or 5%. So if he made 5 million there, but that's assuming he sells everything, which obviously he's not going to do, all the taxes that incurred. But the very rudimental maths were he made $1 million bet, but potentially made 5 on the pump of the price based on this bet that he did. So is he really down? But he's spinning it now, going, it was never about 1 million. I never thought the price of Bitcoin was going to go to 1 million within 3 months. He just wanted to burn $1 million telling us that they're printing trillions. So you basically want to get a platform to make a bet, be wrong, but get a load of attention and go, see, look, inflation's really bad. It's go, Balaji, every Bitcoiner worth their salt has been talking about the printing of trillions, and we don't need to do silly $1 million bets. And I'm not sure, because I think a lot of people heard about the $1 million bet, and then they'll hear nothing else and probably just come back to it in a couple of months and we'll just be laughed at, and this tweet thread won't even be mentioned. So I'm not really sure what the hell he's doing. I think he's realized he was wrong, and I think he's trying to dig his way out of it and trying to recover some type of credibility. But I'm not a big fan of Balaji. He's been a shitcoiner. I think he is a shitcoiner. I think he's turned Bitcoiner recently. And now I think he's trying to get a lot of attention. And I think he tried to make a big bet on the price of Bitcoin, and he's wrong. And now he's trying to go, I knew I was wrong.
But you do get these shit coiners who just want attention. Like, if connect to one of the other stories, is like, all I ever see is fucking Udi, whatever his name is. So he just wants some fucking attention.
Yeah.
And then you've got who are the other shit coiners, Craig Wright. Attention. He just wants to be current, and maybe it's one of those things, he wants to be current.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting, some of the stats he put in, so talking about the trillions, and then he talked about I think 2 quarters, it was from mild recession to full blown in 2008, 2 years for the USSR to collapse, 2 months from patient zero to lockdowns, lol. 3 of the 4 biggest bank failures are current. 2.2 trillion unrealized losses in real estate. they'll reckon it'll be worse than 2008. 1.4 trillion in unfunded pensions. So obviously the US. I think there's a whole series of books about this. That basically all the pensions are fucked in the US. Like police forces, you've been paying it for 30 years. Unless you retire real soon, there's very slim chance you'll get any of that. I think it was Robert's, or what's his name? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Can never think what his surname
Robert
is.
Kiyosaki.
Yeah, I think he talked about the issue about unfunded pensions.
That's right.
Then he's talking about de-dollarizations happening. Many countries are moving away. So, which is right. You know, what he's saying about that one's right. And I can't made me think about Ray Dalio and Nick Bashir, both from no, not happening, not happening. And it's just like, you've obviously been bribed for that. Because it's happening in your eyes. Less millionaires going to the US. Gold demand surged to 11-year high. And then his probability of the dollar collapsing, being you put 10% within months, 70% within years, 19% within decades, and 1% within centuries. I think, you know, those kind of like probabilities probably are around about right. It probably is looking more like a decade or so. I reckon by 2030, shit really will hit the fan though.
Yeah.
If you spent $1 million just to get this tweet thread out, all right.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I hadn't really heard of him before, if I'm honest. And so he went around doing the rounds, you know, kind of doing every interview possible, kind of just making a name for himself even more so. So maybe
he was around Bitcoin. He was a bit of an OG Bitcoiner. But then, he went into shitcoins, so everyone just left him. Who knows what he did? Probably created a load of shitcoins. Then he pops up as the CTO at Coinbase. So then everyone sees him. But then again, I think he did that for a bit of a profile thing because he didn't stay there for that long. And then he comes out and he was massively... He tried to become some type of health expert during the whole COVID thing. He was a massive advocate for lockdowns and vaccines. He rebranded his whole Twitter as if, I think he did study microbiology or something that was related to vaccines in some shape or form anyway, or at least viruses. Okay. So he completely rebranded his Twitter and became this virus expert and was a huge advocate in it. You know, I think I'd unfollowed him already because of his shitcoining. And then the whole lockdown thing happened and he started tweeting. And then that went from an unfollow to a block. And then it was only recently, once he made this $1 million bet, I actually unblocked him just to see what he was saying, to see if he's changed his tune.
Yeah.
This, I'm like, he's still just an attention whore. He just wants people to fucking look at him. Like, fine.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Everything which he's saying is factually true. But the reason, like we said, it's speculation that there's something around this. Like, I think he ends with, once people understand the monetary system, the answer becomes very clear. We need something to take humanity into its next era and get off of fiat Ponzi that we currently have. You know, this is something which is put around Bitcoin Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is the answer, in my opinion. Now, the one thing which I did love about this thread is one of the comments. It is the hardest and most honest form of money ever created. Marco, Whiteboard Finance. I love Marco. I do. So I saw that. But, you know, I just listened to it. I wasn't really thinking about this guy in terms of his history. I was kind of like going, why'd you fucking spend $1 million in order to do a video? So it didn't make a lot of sense, but I listened to it, you know, and thought everything she's saying is true. It's just the fact of why are you saying this? Everyone says this all the time. Why are you so special?
Yeah. I think his big reveal video, I think he thought that was going to go as viral but it hasn't really. It's like no one really cares. It's like, oh right, you're talking shit, were you? Okay. It's like, oh, let's see your big reveal then. Why did you do this? And he just puts out a load of talking points that Bitcoiners have been saying for a decade. Okay, all right, nice. Laters. Let's move on to MicroStrategy.
I was going to say we got a lot better video later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Marco. He is always given the real, and he's definitely one of my favorites to follow and to watch on YouTube.
You haven't clicked your fingers. You're not going to bother clicking your fingers for that one.
Oh, not that one. No, Jesus, it's like a 10-minute video.
Oh, okay.
No, and Balaji doesn't deserve. We've already spent too much time on him. He's a freaking attention
Yeah,
whore.
yeah.
Let's move on to MicroStrategy. They're actually doing something good for Bitcoin as opposed to just trying to get attention. Or who knows, actually. Maybe they're trying to get attention. But
Well, do you know what? It's funny, actually, you do say that, because the attention that they have gotten is obviously, they put around, I don't know how much into, I think they 10x the company just through their association with Bitcoin. And obviously Michael Saylor being the CEO, but it's not like he was just all of a sudden an overnight CEO. He's been the CEO for 23 years of MicroStrategy.
I'm just having a look at their share price because it's been a bit choppy up and down, hasn't it?
Mm.
oh yeah, well they're down on their Bitcoin purchases. Last time I saw, but I think the share price is probably still well up. But yeah, so I still not really sure what MicroStrategy do. I think there's some type of business data platform thing.
It's business intelligence.
Yeah, that doesn't tell me anything. I knew that, but I still don't know what they do. It's just yeah, they do stuff with data and businesses. All right, great. So, but they seem to make quite a lot of money doing that. Because I think Saylor obviously became a billionaire off the back of all this. So they're obviously good. And they seem to have a lot of good partnerships and all that kind of good stuff. The only reason they're on here is not for us to show MicroStrategy, but it's they've launched a Lightning platform. So they've integrated Lightning into their core platform. It seems to, obviously, you can't use this, you can't really see it. There's no demos, some screenshots, and a bit of like marketing blurb. But it seems to be microtransactions using Lightning within a business platform. You're trying to incentivize either your employees or your customers to do certain things, and you can give them Satoshis as a reward. So that's good. It is good that, obviously, like we always say, we need Bitcoin integrated into the core things in finance and business and in just in general retail. All these integrations help. So
it's yet more infrastructure.
Yeah.
So it's rebuilding the whole financial sector, industry, whatever you want to call it, their infrastructure. Hence why it's so important. I can't really add anything to this. It's just I don't really understand how they're going to use it. But
Same. I tried to do a little bit of research prior to now, and I couldn't find anything. I saw that he's done an interview recently. I didn't have time to watch it with Natalie Brunel. That was just about 45 minutes. And then he's also gone on Mr. Orlin's favorite YouTube program, Patrick Bet-David. And so he's on there today as well.
Yeah, who knows if he's going to chat about this. But yeah, it's good, right? It always reminds me of, when cars came out, and everyone was on horse and cart. The big argument was there's no roads. There's no roads that suit cars. Everything's just tracks that suit horse and cart. And this is another road. Someone's building another road. At the moment, it doesn't connect to anything. It's just a road from MicroStrategy out to a highway, and there's no highway there. But there's another road in. So we should all just do our bit and build one of the roads or something, and eventually the network of roads are being built, and you're like, oh, of course, Bitcoin's easy now.
Yeah.
okay.
I think Dr. 10%'s getting down and dirty over there. Someone under the desk again. I hope it's the mistress, not the wife.
No response. That must be a yes.
Might be both.
Oh, I do play.
Nice.
You are treating yourself, sir. Gobble, gobble.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people's champ.
I don't even know what the conversation was. I was just handing my wife a coat.
Oh, that's what you call it, is it?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, the next story that we're going to move on to is the $10 to $20 main chain Bitcoin transactions are back due to NFTs. Now, I would really like an understanding on this because I was reading it, I was trying to get an understanding of the ordinals, and yes, do you want to try and clear this up for us?
Yeah, that's why I really push this one forward, because I've seen shit on Twitter about ordinals. I've kind of gone, they're basically NFTs, or rather
Yeah.
it's links within the blockchain using JavaScript to an image. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's very
My
similar.
understanding, sorry, was that more NFTs were on ETH as opposed to Bitcoin. So therefore, it would clog up that network and let Bitcoin just do what Bitcoin does, which is nothing to do with NFTs. So again, yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately, right? This is one of our lessons, really, as to why you don't change Bitcoin, because you know how we're all a fan of Taproot, but every time we were talking about that, it was always, but there's a risk we have unintended consequences. So one of the things that we did with Taproot was you could put in smart contract type of thing with Bitcoin. So you could make it where you could send it and then receive 10% back every 30 days or something. Essentially, you could do loans, and you could do like very short smart contracts with Bitcoin as well. That was one of the benefits that Taproot gave us. And it looked like, okay, great. It makes Bitcoin a bit more programmable at a base layer. Nothing crazy. It's still got to be a very, very short piece of code, but you can put a bit of code in there. So it took the shitcoin morons about 6 months to figure out they could put JavaScript links or whatever links to JPEGs and to shitcoins. So they started doing that. And it's got a bit of momentum. And there's a load of quite influential shitcoiners and NFTers that have suddenly just started spamming the shit out of the Bitcoin network, putting all their JPEGs and shitcoins onto the Bitcoin blockchain. And they've pushed fees up hugely. They've pushed them up to $10, $20 a transaction. So before you could get, I've been sending transactions for the last 2 years, 1 Satoshi per transaction, a fraction of a penny. Now suddenly it's $10, $20 because the shitcoins and the NFTs that they're shilling are going for more than that. So it costs you $20 to put a random link to a JPEG on the Bitcoin blockchain, but they're selling it for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Because yet again, there's a lot of morons, seemingly anyway, on the receiving end of this. So you never know how much of the money on the other end is legit. Because as we know, a lot of the shitcoins and NFTs, the key trick, the great trick they always pull, is they buy it all themselves first. Because no one knows who's buying it, right? You issue a load of shitcoins, you issue a load of JPEGs, and you just buy the first 1,000 yourself. You get a load of these people are very wealthy. They can just buy a shit ton of stuff off themselves. And it suddenly starts a bit of FOMO. The idiots and the dumb money start flying in. And before you know it, there's people actually genuinely buying these for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And that's what's happened. And there's a load of shitcoiners at the moment doing the victory lap around Twitter, going, Bitcoin's broken, $20 fees. And now Bitcoin's now a shitcoin and NFT network. And my answer to that would be, this is a fad. It's gonna boom in a month and it will die next month. And Bitcoin's not broken at all. Bitcoin is a network that still completely works. You just have to pay more for the main chain now, which, as always, use Lightning. It's still free. It doesn't affect Lightning. It only affects the main chain. And and the core Bitcoin kind of people aren't buying these NFTs. They're not buying these shitcoins. It's the random shitcoiners, and we know they come and go really quickly. That the people that run these scams are very clever. They'll come in, make millions. A load of idiots will come and lose the millions, and then everything goes to zero, and they move on to the next thing.
You just got to see what's his name is it Logan Paul?
Yeah.
When he appears, the end is near.
If anything, it'd be great to see a Logan Paul because he normally marks the top. He normally comes in right at the end. So he's the last one, and doesn't make any money normally. He just gets scammed himself or something. But
I think you raise a really good point there, though, that we do see these phases come in for a little short time. It causes a blip to the kind of the network and to the normal running of Bitcoin, and then we get over it. And as always, Bitcoin just meanders its way through all of the crap and then just comes out on top and then says, "Hit me again."
yeah,
So we'll take the pain now.
yeah. The one thing that I really would take away from this is Satoshi coded and designed a near perfect sound money, and Taproot looked like a great idea, and it did have some improvements around like the privacy and the overall size of transactions, and improved the chain in that way. But it allowed a load of shitcoiners to come and spam our network. They couldn't do this before. You couldn't put links and bullshit shitcoins on the Bitcoin network before Taproot. And because we all signed off on it, this happened. So this is probably going to be something that comes and goes in a couple of months, and people can get bored. And dumb money only lasts for so long, right? Once the dumb money runs out.
But what's to stop it coming back, or some kind of, I don't know, enhancement on this in 2-3 years?
Yeah, nothing.
I suppose that's what's going through my head. Is how do we stop this? Does there have to be another development where this is taken out?
Well, that's the, and then obviously then there's the risk of, if you take it out, what else does it do and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I just think the network is nigh on near perfect, and every time we change it, we have a huge risk of breaking Bitcoin. And I don't think this is it, but it's a warning shot. So I think next time we have another upgrade, I'm nearly just going to be a no. Just fucking leave it. Even this, like, just leave it. Like, at the moment, a load of shitcoiners can end up paying $10, $20, because the only people winning out of this, right, are the shitcoin owners. They always win because they're selling something that's worthless for something, so they make the money. But the real winners in all this are the miners. If you're mining Bitcoin right now, you're fucking loving it. Every transaction's going in at $20 a transaction instead of 1 penny or a fraction of a penny. So they're just raking in the money. The miners are making an absolute fucking fortune. The shitcoin founders are making a fortune. And all it is it's the dumb money just need to lose their money. And they lose it pretty quick. Within 6 months, they're out. They're out of dry powder. And then they're gone for 2 years.
Just an understanding of ordinals. So they are mark on a sat or something. Is that what happens? I mean, how is an ordinal stored? I don't really understand that, because I've stayed away from bothering reading it just because I've been like, what's the point?
Yeah, I haven't massively dug into it. I assume it's the same as an NFT, which is just a link to a fucking JPEG, so that it's stored somewhere else. It's just a link.
So it's literally on the blockchain. There's a link.
Yeah, there's a link to a JPEG which you could change. You could change what exists behind that JPEG. You think it might be a picture of a monkey or whatever, but I could change it to a dick. Easy.
I just can't be bothered reading about it. 'Cause when I first read ordinals and it was basically an NFT, I was just like, I just don't care.
Yeah, that's what I've seen it the last 3 or 6 months. I just went, I don't even put it on the podcast. I can't be asked. I don't want to even discuss it. But then obviously now it's kind of come back to bite us, and it's hurt the network, and now we've got $20 fees, and everyone wants to know why that's happened. So we have to talk about it. But I think it's gonna be a temporary thing.
There's a couple of links in here, and one's Marty Bent, so someone who we do have articles from. Cracking article, kind of like probably more of the same what you were saying. It brings up grifters, which is a great term, and I think he puts some spin of positive on this. So I think it's called Jevons paradox, which is more efficient and useful a resource becomes, the more it will be used.
Yeah.
So kind of like putting the positive, but Bitcoin's become more and more popular. So people are looking at ways of extorting money from it, which is a good way of looking at it. But it's also the way which Satoshi designed it, as you said, it was to stop all this shit. And I think I can't remember if you put it on. You were talking about this before, or it was when we were in our group. It's what layer 2 is for, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's shit, we can just stop using layer 2. We can stop using the Taproot network or whatever it's called and just be like, fuck it, don't want to use it anymore. So it's full of fucking grifters.
Yeah. It's a good warning shot, this, because this could have been worse, right? This could have been something that who knows, that they could have been able to get this into the blockchain for cheap.
I think it makes me understand it even more, because the way which I explain it to people, when we ask, is the Bitcoin network is a gold. It's like when you buy your, I don't know, brush or comb off Amazon, you don't buy it with fucking gold, do you? You buy it with money, and it's near instant using the Visa network. So you keep your gold in your bank, you borrow against the gold, which is then onto the Lightning Network, and the Lightning Network is the equivalent of Visa. So it's you don't worry about that underlying infrastructure with your gold as long as it's safe and secure. So yeah, leave it alone. Get all the other layers to do the infrastructure which we need in a financial network.
Yeah.
Like it.
Because
let's move on to our favorite country, which is featured in the last 3 podcasts, Argentina. But they've gone and done something which just goes against everything that they need, which is put a ban on the buying of Bitcoin. We now know that means Bitcoin is definitely what they need. When they ban it, it's a buy signal. So Argentina's central bank bans financial institutions from offering Bitcoin.
I think the initial ban, so it did ban it, but I think it was banks offering it, and this is just any institutions, isn't it? That's my understanding.
Correct.
Because when the IMF swooped in and said, "Don't worry, Argentina, I'll save you. Just hold on. I'm Bitcoin for the banks." But now they're back and they're saying ban it completely, aren't they?
Yeah, ban it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think obviously our first set of stories on Argentina were, it's fucked. But then last week looked like a little glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
They gave the middle finger to the IMF. They're going off to start accepting the yuan instead and maybe partnering with China. You go, okay, maybe they're looking to go a little bit independent, and one of the next steps also would be adopting Bitcoin. You're getting off the US dollar. I would accept, go to China, go to Russia, go to Bitcoin, start spreading your bets. But in reality, they're still under the control. It's just, in reality, who's controlling them now? Instead of probably America controlling them, China are controlling them instead now, and they're going, yeah, we'll give you some money, but ban that Bitcoin stuff. We don't want all our good money filtering out the sides. We know what happens. So ban it. And it's super bad news for Argentina, right? It traps the people there into fiat, and they're going to really struggle now. And I've seen some tweets around all this stuff, and it's just going to push it more and more peer to peer, more and more black market, because people are going to find Bitcoin, and they can.
You want the safe route, don't you? I mean, they're begging for the US dollar, which shows how bad things have gone.
Yeah.
And I suppose I made a bit of a joke of it last week about the inflation between the weeks. I've just looked at it this week. It's not too bad. It's only an increase of 4 pesos within a week between the US dollar and the Argentinian peso, which is a weekly inflation of 1.75%.
Yeah. On average, is that since we've been covering Argentina?
No, that's just 1 week.
Just 1 week, yeah. So in the last 3 pods, which we've covered Argentina, what's been the increase?
So that would put us back to, sorry, I've got to look at the date now. So what did we cover the 25th the first time of April?
Yeah.
It's not too bad. It's only gone up by 8. So that would be, what, about 4% in total? That's not bad.
Yeah.
for
Well,
Argentina.
they
But in
they
3
hit the pod,
weeks,
didn't they? It was 118% in a year, wasn't it? That was what hit them onto the pod.
but if we
Yeah.
go back to the start of April, it was 211, so it's gone up by 17 within a month.
Yeah.
So that's bordering on 10% within a month, and that's also the official rate as well. So who knows what is happening underneath the water there?
Because so they featured on Pod 95 when we were talking about Inflation Weekly, and Argentina's inflation hitting 118%. And again, as we said, the who knows if that figure is even that. It's typically always going to be higher.
Yeah, we always say 2 to 3 times, which always turns out to be accurate. So yeah, it could literally be what did I say, 1.75. So that would be 5.25% within a week, which is horrific when you start to look at it that way.
Yeah.
And again, I use this as a good model because I'm guessing that the majority of listeners and people that aren't from Argentina and aren't in a country that is hit hyperinflation. But this is the model that tends to happen. Hyperinflation occurs, governments go into panic, the people are trying to flee to other forms of fiat that are more stable, but also Bitcoin. So the government will then ban those flights to freedom. So you can't wait for it to happen, because if you do wait that long, the exit paths and the life rafts will be blocked. Whereas if you do it first, before it fails, then the lifeboats are open. You can just walk straight on them. And then that's sadly, for the people of Argentina, they'd have been fine buying Bitcoin for the last couple of years, and it'd been a very sensible thing to do. You'd avoided a lot of inflation from the peso or even the dollar. If they're in the dollar, they'd have done very well by buying Bitcoin. But now it's illegal. Now you're a criminal if you buy Bitcoin in Argentina. And that's what they do. They make you a criminal for just doing something that protects you and your family. And
it's also
Bitcoin.
It makes it absolutely insane. But how can the government tell you what currency to use? When you actually think about it, it is your money, your time, your belongings. Yet someone's telling you what you can spend it on and what you can measure the value in. And it's just, you think about it and you go, it's absolutely batshit crazy when you put it down to that level.
Yeah. And they'll have a load of rationale for it. But it all boils down to the fact that if they don't have control of the money, they don't have control of you.
Yeah, so I think there's a little phrase in here. The central bank banned Bitcoin operations for the entire financial sector, saying it aims to mitigate the risks involved in transactions of digital assets. Those include high volatility, cyber attacks, and money laundering.
Yeah.
So it just says it all, high volatility. Don't worry, we will gently give you a soft landing from 220 to possibly 440 within the next year, but it'll be soft.
Yeah.
Whereas Bitcoin could take you up and down and actually keep your money stable.
Yeah, it's laughable watching the fiat morons try and justify why they ban Bitcoin and say that their fiat, which is just hyperinflated and is near worthless, is a better store of value and a better money than Bitcoin is. You almost can't believe they're doing it, but then you kind of go, well, what else are they going to say?
You'd expect that off the government, but you'll have people saying this to you, won't they? Actual members of the public who'd be like, oh, the government want your best interests. It's like, since when?
I think you touched on it really well, Mr. Rawlin, when you talked about when the government ban it, it's actually too late. So take again this as a sign that this could easily happen wherever you live, wherever you're listening to the pod from, that you may as well just get a little bit, because we know that bank accounts can be frozen super easy. We know that CBDCs are coming into effect and will be here eventually. And so you need an alternative before you have no choice. Should we move on?
I think it brings us quite nicely to the next story, which is another Marty Bent's story. The end game is getting close as US banks continue to fail. So a lovely article from Marty about this. So the first thing which I took from it, because I just seem to have missed this one, but PacWest is going soon and looking to be purchased.
Yeah.
And as
And
Jerome Powell,
First Republic one as well. I think you missed that one as well.
I think that was last week, wasn't it?
I did, yeah. But it's
Yeah.
every week there's another big bank going, right? It's always
That's right.
But
it's only a small bank. Now it's only the second largest bank in US history to the whole dismissal of it's only the small bank, it's only small countries starting to run out, aren't they? Because these banks that are failing are getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
But don't
Exactly.
worry. But don't worry. Jerome Powell says the banking system is sound and resilient.
Oh, okay.
Jerome Powell wouldn't lie.
So we've had the second and the third largest banking failure in 2023.
I think it's
And-
2, 3, 4, 5, isn't it? It's only the first, which was 2008.
Yeah, the first is 2008. Yeah, there's been nothing else big. But I guess these are all just the ripple effects, and effectively they will culminate into one big collapse. But it is a controlled demolition and collapse, because ultimately, as we said on last week, they all roll up into the 6 big banks in the US.
But it's waiting for one of them to go. So I think kind of like leading on from it, it's like the dominoes. We talked about the countries. Oh, it's only Argentina. It's only Turkey. It's only what other countries we've got on the verge at the moment. I think there's a few more. It's only Paraguay. It's only Ecuador. It's only Venezuela. Brazil, they're all right, but it's a bit of inflation. It's only Brazil though, and it's bigger and bigger and bigger, and it is the domino effect there. And it's
because that the chart that they have on this article is crazy, right? You know, the big bubbles right at the top.
I have to look at it on my phone.
It's they show you basically the value of the banks that failed. And in 2008 you've got Washington Mutual Bank with 307 billion. You got IndyMac Bank 32 billion. They were the two big ones, right? But then in 2022 alone, you had Silicon Valley, Signature, and First Republic. All was Signature Bank the smallest, 110 billion, and then First Republic and Silicon Valley Bank both over 200 billion. So those bubbles look fucking huge in 2023 compared to loads and loads of smaller banks that all just went insolvent during 2008. But if you shove those balls back into 2008, you go, wow, look how, of course, the market failed based on this huge amount of money going. But I think what slightly misses it, obviously, that is the fact that because inflation is so bad, 300 billion back in 2008 is nothing in 2023. That's just,
of course,
it's loose change that you lose back down the back of the sofa.
Yeah,
So,
we need a bigger bank, don't we, to actually make it look being number one.
Yeah.
So
even though this is like the second largest bank failure, it's actually only the 100th biggest bank now, because the banks will have so much more money. They probably have trillions now, right? Some the top 5 banks with what we listed the other day.
So what was Washington Mutual again?
307 billion.
So we say that money halves in value roughly every 15 years. So we're looking for one to be really 600 billion plus in order for it to be that bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we also know that the largest transfer of wealth ever happened in the last 3 years. So I think the banks made a lot of money.
No, that was for masks.
Your grandma got it. All the grandmas are rich now. I forgot. They got all the money. Or maybe the banks and Big Pharma got it. So I wouldn't be surprised if, it should be 600 billion, but I would imagine it's near a trillion that we're probably looking for.
Yeah. So, I mean, we went 600 billion. I think that's probably a fair one over 15 years, but the last 2-3 years probably really distorted it, like you were saying. And it's, I think we saw this in 2008. So 15 years later, it's so obvious that the government's backstopping by printing. So you touched upon it at the start when we were talking about, what is it, Skipton, and that the government will just bail them out. You know,
Yep.
where does it end? Because they're making bad decisions all the time. They've barely got any fractional reserves in America. I think in the UK we're a bit tighter, but in the US, it's fuck all, literally, which they have in the background. So what is it, 20% of people take the money? They all fall over. You know, I don't think any of them survive. And it's like, it's all these systematic issues, whereas we're all worrying about misgendering and pronouns and shit, whereas this is just ripping wealth or any prosperity away from the normal person, but they don't realize it. So they're too worried about being misgendered instead.
Mm.
Yeah, because it's one of them. I think it's very different what's happening at the moment to 2008. Weirdly, I think 2008, like they went straight for Lehman Brothers. They were the one that went bust, and they were one of the top 5 banks, if not the top bank at the time.
What year was that, Lehman Brothers?
It's 2008.
2008.
Yeah,
How much were they?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised they're not on here because they were the big one. I don't know what. Yeah, I'd have to look it up. But they were the big one, right? They were one of the top 5 banks. The
619 billion in debt when Lehman Brothers collapsed.
yeah,
So Lehman Brothers were forced to file for bankruptcy, and that sent the company stock plummeting a final 93%. When it was all over, Lehman Brothers, with its $619 billion in debts, was the largest corporate bankruptcy filing in US history.
yeah.
So how come they're not on the bubbles? That's what's
It's
confusing
an
me.
interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And to us, I'm surprised that all the other banks aren't there as well. I can only assume that like these are the banks that either got acquired or went bust. And technically, I think Lehman Brothers and all those guys got bailed out. But then that would then say First Republic, Signature, and Silicon Valley Bank also didn't get bust. They all got either purchased or brought out. But yeah, I just think, regardless of the bubbles, I think it's because the smaller banks are going over first. It means they have the ability to bail them out. I mean, when the big one goes bust, the way that the banks are all set up, they all owe each other money. They all lend money to each other.
Yeah.
If one just goes, we're done, it literally means they're all done because they all share the same money. They all have the same kind of balance sheets. So it was just almost unrecoverable in 2008. So we had to have a huge correction where everyone lost confidence in the banking system, and millions lost their homes, and it was a big recession, and we had a serious market correction following it. But I think this time the bigger banks aren't going under first. They haven't had the hit. It's the smaller ones that have gone, and people are running to the bigger ones for safety. Bizarrely. So I think the way the US are treating this is, if we just bail out the small ones, eventually all the money ends up in the big ones. That's kind of what we wanted anyway. Kind of quite convenient because they're the ones most under government control. And hopefully they don't go bust. I mean, they're all just massively got fingers crossed that once all the money is in the top 5 banks, it doesn't start leaving one of them. And that's what might happen. Because obviously we know inflation is going to continue to happen. And we also know those big 5 are also insolvent. So if the people actually realize that and they start buying Bitcoin, then it's all over. But I think they're trying to put out the fire as they go. And it's just, the thing is that the money printing just is going to start getting insane because these bank collapses just keep getting bigger. It's every week there's another one. And we're talking hundreds of billions here every week being printed to bail out a bank. And this is just in the US.
And this is on top of all the kind of stuff over the last few years.
Yeah.
So it's just more. It's another 20% year. It's another 30% year. And it's just all topping up. It's like they've got to do it in a way.
Yeah. I would also caveat that the top 6 banks, I'm sure they've got something like 50% of all of the liquidity that goes through them anyway. I'm just doing a quick calculation on Statista.com, but I'm sure it is that.
So just while you're looking at that, I mean, there's some quotes here from Marty. There's no future that exists where the system as we know it can persist without turning into an overtly Orwellian hellscape where people's money is tightly controlled and it loses any connection to the actual definition of money. We are halfway there. You know, there's stuff going on in Canada and also the introduction of CBDCs. It's coming, you know, and literally we've talked about it many times. CBDCs aren't a step forward. They're a step to try and remain in control. And Marty talks about it through the whole of the article. The government isn't going to save you. In fact, the only option the government has, if it wants to maintain control, is to further enslave you into their monetary system. Exactly the same point. And you can't argue against it. There's no benefits to CBDCs, and it's absolutely insane they're being suggested. And the fact that cash is now dangerous. Yeah, and then he mentions the end game is in play, and you are currently standing at a fork in the road, one path leading to misery, and the other leading to freedom. Choose wisely. And this is where I think your comment about Argentina comes in. So never look. Why don't you just have 1% of your wealth? Why not even 10%? If you're not a believer, what is 1% going to do?
Yeah,
it may save you.
It's getting to the point where it's buy now or regret it forever.
Yeah,
we're getting down to decision time. Yeah, but before it's I've missed out. Bitcoin's too high in price. Da 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 da. It's like, and you've been fortunate at the moment that your fiat hasn't gone to zero. You've still got your fiat. You missed out on Bitcoin gains, but you still got your fiat. It's getting to the point where your fiat is going to zero, and you're going to wake up one day and it will be zero, and you'll go, "Holy shit! I just want a little bit of Bitcoin then. Just give me a fraction," and it's going to be. No, Bitcoin's banned, or your dollars or your pounds, your euros, they're worthless now. So we're getting to that point. So that's why he says, like, choose wisely.
Well, this is
The future of you and your family depend on your financial decision.
They're becoming worthless, and you know they're coming up with silly shit. It's like eat the bugs because the bugs are cheaper than beef. Eat the vegan slop because it's cheaper than chicken. The stuff which causes cancer and is called plant-based because it's made in a type of plant, a factory plant. But it's for your health, is what they claim now. And it's so out of control, and it's so obvious when you peel back the covers.
Yeah, they're just manipulating the CPI. They're replacing beef with crickets and going, see, the price hasn't gone up. No, but you replace beef with insects. That isn't like for like.
Or someone suggested to me that you trim down the amount of beef which you have in a bolognese or a burger or something and put the beans in instead. I said, no, I'm not doing that. It's meant to be healthy. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's like getting half a blowjob. What's the point?
Is it the end or the beginning?
Yeah. Anyway, should we move on to RFK?
RFK. When I saw this at first, I was a bit like, wow, there's someone like this that exists that's trying to run for office and trying to fight the good fight for the people and the masses. And then once again, reality kicked in and I thought, never going to make it. You know, never going to make it. It's all good. And I say this based on what's happening today with Imran Khan being arrested in Pakistan. Me and my friends were talking about it earlier on, where he could have rode off into the sunset, a cricket legend and hero, but instead he wanted to expose the crooks that were taking money from Pakistan and have been lining their pockets. And he's, unfortunately, maybe he's going to have to pay the highest penalty with his life. RFK equally might also be killed off.
Well, he's the nephew of JFK, right?
Yep.
And JFK is obviously, I hate politics. I hate all politicians. However, JFK is probably the politician I hold at the highest esteem. He was the one that tried to stop the US dollar going into a fiat standard. He tried to keep it on a gold standard. He also tried to keep America out of the Vietnam War. However, the CIA, the elitists and the globalists did not agree with that. So whether you want to agree or disagree, they shot him in the head. Their story is it was a random guy that did the shot of the century. A guy that had barely shot a rifle in his life did a 200-meter shot, high winds, bang, shot him straight in the back of the head. There's only some like 3 guys in the world that could have made that shot. They all worked for the US Army. So he was assassinated, right? And then straight away, Nixon comes in, starts the Vietnam War straight away, which ends up being a complete catastrophe, and throws them onto a fiat standard and starts the money printing. JFK is removed. The normal government machine continues. The war machine continues, which we know is highly profitable. And of course, the most profitable thing that you can ever get is just printing money out of thin air and just giving it to yourself. It's even better than the war machine. You just get the printing and give it to yourself. So this is the nephew of JFK, and he seems to be talking exactly like his uncle. And he's massively anti-war. He's massively anti-lockdown. And he's massively pro-Bitcoin. And I don't think he completely gets it, because he's also talking about crypto quite a lot. But I don't mind him the fact he's going, just let it be. Let it compete. Having people have privacy around their money. Yeah, criminals want privacy, but also normal citizens want their privacy. And normal citizens want to not be harassed and controlled by the government. And maybe they want their own form of money that they want to use, to let them use it. And he thinks that, I think fiat will still be a thing. But I think he believes what his uncle also said, which was printing money at the rate they're printing is highly detrimental to just about every citizen that has to use that money. So fucking stop it. And hearing his views on lockdowns and vaccines is also just super refreshing. He's done a long podcast on the All In podcast, not my podcast, even though I missed it all in. It's actually a different podcast. And holy shit, he goes in. He goes all in on the COVID vaccine, plus all vaccines. He talks about when he was a child, he got vaccinated against 3 things. He's now got his grandkids coming through. They took 72 doses to vaccinate them against like 25 different viruses. And he just goes, half these things are just unnecessary. He's got a whole thing on it, and he's stating statements. He's got all the rise in autism, allergies, all this stuff. And he's going, these can be pegged back to when we started flooding our kids. And there's just a massive incentive of once these to get your vaccine kind of government approved as part of the children process. Suddenly then you don't need to market it, you don't need to advertise it, because it's just mandatory. You just get to sell however many kids are born that year, you get to sell that many. It's fucking beautiful. So they saw a lot of lobbying and and holy shit, he goes in on everything. He is so anti-establishment. He so sees the wood for the trees. And he's clearly got JFK written all through him. And and he's running for president. Seems to be Bitcoin friendly. So I'm just wondering when he becomes a friend of the Clintons and accidentally shoots himself in the head 3 times. And throws the gun away as well. The friends of the Clintons tend to shoot themselves in the head 3 or 4 times and then throw the gun away afterwards, because there's no gun on the scene, which a little bit suspicious, right? And normally when you commit suicide, the gun's lying next to you, but not if you're a friend of the Clintons. The gun's nowhere to be found. Nothing suspicious about that.
Well, did you know that the JFK assassination video wasn't released until many years afterwards?
No, I didn't know that, no.
Exactly 37 years afterwards. So we take it for granted.
37?
Yes.
That just shows, doesn't it? Because when after that, you're just like, well, who cares after that, right?
Exactly. But
It's like
37 years, and the reason why it got brought up is because we're now living in an age where everybody's quick to pull their phones out before they call 999. But this was taken from somebody stood on a grassy knoll with a video camera, and we naturally handed it in, but it was never ever released to the public.
yeah, and why wouldn't you release something that was? They obviously their I'm sure their rationale was, oh, it's too gory, it's the assassination of a president, you don't want to see this stuff. But in reality, what were they really scared about? They were scared about the fact that it revealed that it wasn't a member of the public that took the shot, right? It was
Correct.
someone else. And yeah, so who knows, eh? Who knows? But the problem is, right? I have no faith in politics. So either what will happen with Robert is he'll either, because I think he's running for Democrat as well. By the way, he's not even running Conservative.
So he's got to beat Biden.
Yeah, and that's in the primaries, like not even the main election. He needs to beat him on the way up. So running as a Democrat on this type of manifesto, you got fucking no chance. You know, Democrat voters are the COVID Karens. They're the woke group. They're coming out against everything government. It just destroys their nice little Nirvana world they think they live in. There's no way they vote.
But he is a Kennedy, and they do love a Kennedy in the US. So maybe there's some hope.
Yeah, but just purely the fact, I think, if he's running as a Democrat and he's anti-lockdown and anti-vaccine, no chance. They fucking love their lockdowns and their vaccines when you're a Democrat.
It's actually because it's weird in America, isn't it? It's because
Isn't it?
the Republicans decided they didn't like those things. Well, the first ones to mouth off, then the Democrats like immediately it's opposite. And it's literally like this really weird religion in America, isn't it? They're so divided they can't even think themselves. It's actually, oh yeah, this person's a bad person because they're a Republican. Apart from you got someone who is a bit dodgy as the president at the moment, who seems to sniff little children, which is fact. I can say that because he does. There's countless videos. He's senile. He can barely string together a sentence, but somehow he's all right.
And not only is he all right, he got the most votes ever for any president in the history.
He was so popular, even dead people went to vote.
Literally crawled out of their graves and voted for him. And but I think the reaction, to Robert F. Kennedy is just shown by this Congressman Brad Sherman, our next story, which his tweet is, because this is a reaction actually to RFK has been announced as a new speaker at the Bitcoin conference. So this year, the Bitcoin conference is going to have him as a speaker. And he's got a lot to say, and hopefully he gets further orange pilled at that conference. I think he's still got a lot of learning to do on Bitcoin. So hopefully this is good for him. But in reaction to that, this is a member of Congress. This is not a random fucking shitcoiner, some random freaking fiat lover. It's a member of fucking Congress, right? And this is his tweet about this post. He retweets it saying, 60 years ago, the late, great Robert R.F. Kennedy went after tax evaders as U.S. Attorney General. Today, his son is slated to speak at a conference for tax evaders. Since when are all Bitcoiners tax evaders? But if anything, that's a little bit of a new one for me. I thought he'd call us racists or, climate change deniers or, I don't know, the normal one. But the tax evasion thing is a bit interesting. And I also like how the fact that he references his dad and not his uncle, because referencing his uncle is inconvenient, because his uncle would be completely giving him, Congressman Brad Sherman the two fingers. But He references his dad because he obviously went after tax evaders. Okay, fine. And it's like that's the reaction. Like instead of a politician going, you know what, I'm going to go speak at the Bitcoin conference and maybe do some learning and just put out my message. That this is a shit post. This is something I would say, right? This is an off the cuff comment, unprofessional. It's just
provoking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not something. As a member of Congress, you can't say this shit. Really,
No.
you're not allowed. Yeah, he's just put in one big group. He's thrown this guy, which is a presidential candidate, which in reality he should be unbiased, right? As a member of Congress, he's supposed to be like the arbitrator of the president and keep them in check and balance and stuff, and kind of be unbiased, really, and go, I'm looking after the US people and making sure the president doesn't step out of line too far. So I'm going to vote yes or no. He shouldn't be picking his favorites. He's picking his favorite here, isn't he? He's clearly, Robert is not his favorite. He fucking hates him. And he's going now, he's undoing his dad's legacy and going to go and help a load of tax evaders at a Bitcoin conference evade tax. And you go, where did you get that from, you fucking idiot?
And also, the amount of tax that people pay. Remember, what was it? There was a revolt on the Americans, on the British, because they're having to pay, what was it, 2% tax? Now they pay over 40% instead. So let's think about that as a closing statement.
Yeah. Rich, should we move on to Jack Mallers?
Let's.
Definitely. This is what I referred to when I talked about the positive video. So Jack Mallers was it a Swan event? Swan Bitcoin event?
Swan Bitcoin, yeah.
Where he was a speaker. And it was really, really interesting point of view which he did on this. So kind of talking about his overview, he talked about the general FUD on Bitcoin. He addressed all the points. It was like a business presentation, like he was trying to sell America that they should use Bitcoin and Lightning. And I kind of went, it's a little bit dishonest in a way, the way which he did it, because he made it sound great from, they don't want to miss out. But Bitcoin, he was almost positioning that Bitcoin sits on top of the dollar. Like the dollar's like the sound money, then you've got Bitcoin, which does all the technology. And it's like, if you let Bitcoin in your house, it's going to eat the dollar. There's no two ways about that. But the stuff which this guy's saying, every time which I see Jack Mallers, I'm just blown away how articulate, well thought out, and business savvy he is. And he's in his 20s?
Yes.
I think he's fighting 30 now, I think he says in this video.
Yeah. It is, everything he says, because he says, for the first 10 years of his life, he was learning how to walk and talk. For the second 10 years of his life, he was learning how to read, and then for the next 10 years, he's just dedicated to Bitcoin. So for all of his adult life, he's been thinking and working in the Bitcoin space. And yeah, you're right. It was more of a pitch to America to say, let's not miss out on this opportunity. And you could replace the word America and put in any country when he was saying that. Ultimately, for the country that adopts Bitcoin, they're priming themselves to be in a great position in the future. And if America listened to him,
they won't.
They won't. Of course they won't. They can stop the loss of their number one superpower status. But of course they won't. And the inevitable will happen. They'll go to war and they'll lose. And they will just go further and further downhill.
Yeah, their final war that America will have will be with themselves.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's happening though.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Yeah, they're doing divide and conquer, but
It's
you
gone
know,
on too long and too hard. I think it's just
yeah.
being too divisive now.
Well, eventually the divide and conquer fails, and the people galvanize, and then finally it's the proper civil war, which is the people against the government, and that's the riots and stuff we see in France, we see in Venezuela, we see in Argentina. People aren't fighting about gender, and they're not fighting about left and right, not fighting about politicians. They're fighting about money. My money's fucking gone.
Yeah.
Where did it
No
go?
matter what the media's pumped full of all these like divisive pieces, you're absolutely right. Like France, they're having full on riots about the pension age.
Yeah.
And like I think it's my mum was saying, oh yeah, it's terrible they're rioting. You know, we've got retirement at 67. I said, when you start paying the tax, they promised a certain age. They've got to stick to that. They can't balance their checkbook. It's not their problem. It's not the people's problem. It's the government's problem. They need to find that money. And she's like, and I'm just like, it's a basic premise of tax. If they can't afford it, they need to learn how to budget and get rid of their waste and their top-heavy structure.
Because they paid higher tax to have an earlier retirement, and now they go, we got it wrong. You go, what do you mean you got it? Give me my money back then. Oh, it's gone. Yeah, it's and eventually, and guess what? Yeah, it's not going to be the first time. So this Jack Mallers interview, like obviously, yeah, I completely concur with your comments. Like he's very well spoken, always talks about Bitcoin fantastically. But what always turns me off is there's something about American Bitcoiners that they just have this hope that America is the greatest country in the world. Which how can you believe that? They are the terrorist organization of the world and the enslavers of the world. There's nothing great about that. They're the richest. Fine, I'll give you that. Did they get there through proper, nice, good means? Absolutely fucking not. They got there through war. They got there through slavery. They got there through money printing. They got there through killing millions of people and stealing natural resources from the Middle East.
Stealing the world's gold as well, which paid for all the infrastructure. Now
the foundation is stealing the gold. Yeah, they literally, that's just a trick. They tricked Europe into giving them their gold, and then they leveraged it, and then they stole the Middle East's oil, and they've leveraged that, and then they forced people ever since through either murder or let us buy your natural resources with worthless bits of paper. But I think Americans are just very biased on that fact, and they can't quite see it. And they know their government is corrupt. They know they're not good, but they still think we're still the greatest, though. You guys, it's interesting you end up in that conclusion based on those first 2 points. And he's going, you need to adopt Bitcoin, otherwise I'm going to leave, And I just want to reach through the screen and grab Jack and go, just fucking leave already. The US is the last place that is going to adopt Bitcoin because they have the most to lose. Because right now, they rule the world. The US dollar is the global standard, and they are going to do anything and everything to keep that mantle.
They'll only go on to Bitcoin when the dollar is truly lost, and by that time it'll be too late for them to actually keep in their place. So you're talking when the dollar's collapsed, and they're going like Argentina and China quite clearly are the leading country when people are trading and the yuan.
And even then, like the last fucking gun, the last F-19 they've got, they'll be fucking sending it up to bomb someone to go, America's still great, except the dollar.
I think, I don't think they'll touch China, but I think they'll be going after like shitty countries like Panama, just to prove their worth.
Yeah, it will turn around where China will be helping, supporting the country in which they're fighting against. And we know that could be in the case of, Taiwan. What connection does the US have in protecting Taiwan? It's only really protecting them to protect itself from being that number one status. And I think that will definitely play out. Whether it's not Taiwan, it'll be another. And then China will be on the opposing side.
Because I always object to all this stuff about wars and how America positioned itself, saying how bad these countries are after what they've done for the last 50 years. What they've done, like they've done some horrendous shit. Even going back further, if you go back to Japan at the end of the Second World War, horrendous. Go to Vietnam, Agent Orange, horrendous. And then all the Gulf Wars, Sudan, Panama, Ecuador, the list goes on. Chad's another country.
Yemen. Obama loved
Yeah.
you.
He did.
Loved bombing the shit out of it.
Okay. So, Jack, good luck with your plea for America to take on Bitcoin, and naturally, we'll be watching and we'll be reporting back. I just can't ever see it though. It's one of those where they'll just be, I know we were talking before going on air, they're just of that boomer generation
Yeah.
where they're not really ready to adopt any new technology or be told anything. They're the parents of this whole thing. We know what works. Not interested in that new coin that you've been talking about. That bit whatever.
Yeah. It's like when I did that other podcast. I can't remember when it was now, it's probably 2 years ago. And it was with an American guy. And he asked me a good question, which I'd never really considered before, and I answered it on the fly. But it was, you seem to have like a dislike for American Bitcoin. It's like, why is this? And I didn't even realize, but he'd been through my tweets and I'd been having a go at some Americans. And I just went, I don't get it, right? Because Bitcoiners are so aligned, but there's something about Americans, they're very tied to their country. Whereas I think the rest of the world are a bit like especially for me, I think maybe it's even more in the UK, I don't know. But I feel so unpatriotic, it's unreal. I just don't feel associated to virtually anyone on this rock. It's just, I associate with Bitcoiners. And if someone went, oh, are you British? Are you English? I just go, well, I suppose technically, but I don't associate with those flags. I don't associate with anything that is attached to that because I don't agree with the majority of the history that those flags represent. I go, I've been born in the last couple of decades in reality. Those flags go back hundreds of years, and I got fucking nothing to do with that. I don't give a shit whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's nothing to do with me. And whether it's good, and I don't care. I am my own person. And I can then, once you are your own person, I think you're unbiased enough and like outside of the echo chamber for you to criticize or not and go, do I agree with my country? And I found that with a lot of Bitcoiners around the world, they're all very similar. They can disassociate themselves with the flag of the country they were born in. The only group that seemed to be tied to their flag and still think that their country is the greatest was Americans. There's something weird about it. They really seem to get properly brainwashed as children.
They do. I was just thinking that exactly that. They are made to sing the national anthem as kids from a young age, and America is great. When you go around the towns and the cities, it's not unusual to see the American flag in the garden on a flag and a pole. So it's just normal for them. Absolutely normal.
Well, we're made to sing the national anthem in the UK from a young age. However, we're also made to hate the St. George's Cross because it's so much racist use, and racists do use the American flag as well, but they don't single it out, do they? So like we've probably got things a little bit wrong in the UK. And that they should kind of like separate it in order to brainwash the public, but we don't for some weird reason.
Yeah, they made a fuck up there, didn't they? If you see someone waving the English flag outside their window,
or the British flag, the British flag as well.
Be the case. That should just be, that's someone that's proud to be English, but it's like racist. Why is this the English flag equal racist? It's actually quite funny because that's the opposite of what they intended.
Yeah, and it's like the British flag as well. The only time which you can have those flags out is a coronation or some other public event. Otherwise, you're not allowed them out because you're a racist. And the Welsh, they don't really care. They just wave their flag everywhere, and no one calls them anything. So they just don't care.
That fucking cartoon dragon on it. Who gives a shit?
You saying it's not real?
I'm sure some prince killed a dragon at some point. Yeah, and then he got noshed off by a unicorn.
How do I know that it was going to go along those lines?
Anyway, boys, we got the last story of the week. It's just a nice it kind of ties it all together, I think, really. It's just a clip from The Big Short. And it's a great clip. I'll play it.
Stop that. Charlie, stop it. Stop.
What?
Do you have any idea what you just did?
Oh, come on, we just made the deal of our lifetimes. We should
You
celebrate.
just bet against the American economy.
Fuck yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Which means,
Oh.
if we're right, people lose homes, people lose jobs, people lose retirement savings, people lose pensions. You know what I hate about fucking banking? It reduces people to numbers. Here's a number. Every 1% unemployment goes up, 40,000 people die. Did you know that?
No,
Did you know that?
no, I didn't know that.
We were just excited,
Just don't fucking dance.
With the clicks. But yeah, it's awesome, right? Because I think it just reminds us to be humble, right? Because they're celebrating the financial collapse. They've got their bet in. They know the housing market's going to collapse, and they're just being reminded that you do realize what happens when the financial and the housing market collapses. Millions of people die. Millions of people are going to be unhomed, and tens of thousands of people are going to die. And it's the same thing when the banking collapse happens this time and fiat collapses and Bitcoin wins. There's going to be a lot of heartache. There's going to be a lot of people homeless, a lot of people skint, a lot of people going to die. So it's one of them where we need to try and be humble and just not sing and dance as we walk out of the casino after putting the bet on. We should just walk out quietly and be like,
I don't know. Aren't there certain people who would be like, "I told you so"?
Yeah, I do think there's definitely a point to walk over to certain people and just give them the finger and walk out. But the problem is there's a lot of there's just a lot of just hardworking normal people that are going to get fucked by all this. So as much as we're going to get proven right and we're going to end up being wealthy at the end of it, it's still sad. There's a lot of people who can get fucked. So as much as there's going to be some people you can go, fuck you, you deserve this. There's a huge majority of people in the middle that were just working hard, trying to fucking earn money and trying to do the safe, secure thing and doing everything they were told. And they're going to lose everything. And it's sad.
And also unaware of what's going on, like totally unaware.
Yeah.
Because, we're fortunate enough to have had each other and talking about what's going on, but you literally could have said, oh, by the way, this is going on and this, and maybe listen to this podcast, maybe pick up this book. No, I'm not interested. And by the time they actually are, or not still, it's too late.
Yeah. And the problem is like the majority didn't even get that.
No.
Yeah, there's probably like 2% of those people got someone like me and you going, read this, read that, and then they ignored us. So you can kind of go, well, we kind of tried to help you, right? But 98% of that majority in the middle didn't even get that. All they got was the mainstream finance news, which was the banks are safe and secure, Bitcoin is dangerous, mortgages are great, as low a deposit as possible, lever yourself up to the hilt, work as long as you can, pensions are safe, all this stuff, right? And then when that stuff collapses, they're just going to be left there going, what the fuck? Like, I picked the safe route. The dangerous option was investing. The dangerous option was to buy Bitcoin. The safe option was to do what I did, which was to pay in 10, 20% of my salary into a pension. to work until I'm 65, to pay off my mortgage, and they're going to get to the end and it's all going to collapse, and it's going to be sad for them. But hey, all we can do is keep talking about Bitcoin and try and save as many people as we can.
Watch the clip. This is our bit for the community, for friends, family, anyone that's listening and watching. It's been brought to you by Mr. Orlin, aka the $1 Trillion Man. Also, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ. Myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. And she was here, but she wasn't here. And yes, our ESG score is cemented with the fact that Mrs. No Show is kind of in the show notes. But once again, we'll be back for next week with pod number 98 as we move on to the century. But for now, peace.